shared again, right? Good morning. This is our 7th week. We are going to engage Unit 7, which will be part of our critical thinking interim assessment. You'll see that most of the content we are going to engage would be something you've seen already. When I say most, because we did deduction, my suspicion is that you would have so much that you already know on the content. And since there's a recorded lecture also on the topic, I think we'll reduce your stress by highlighting the key things that will augment what is already recorded for you. And then more importantly, taking your questions and your interpretation of the content. So you are able to make a good showing of yourself when you are asked to apply those concepts. So unit 7 deals with inductive reasoning in the sciences and everyday life, not deductive, but this is what inductive. This slides. This is not February to May. No, this is June to August. That this was done last semester. So you see that the labeling is February to May. Don't get yourself confused. It's the same batch of students, one semester, and this is the second. So we should see June to August instead. Okay. Now, outline. What should you know? Like I said in the lecture, and I know most of you would have done your homework. We are supposed to know inductive reasoning properly. When is a reasoning inductive? And one of you during the preliminary session, time together, try to show the contrast, not too accurately, but it could score 60, 65 over 100, what the lady said earlier. The reasoning is inductive. We learned how to distinguish that from a deductive argument. And we will stress a bit more on that. We will want to know when we say a statement is verifiable and when we say it is confirmable. These terms are not interchangeable. When you use them interchangeably, you'll be saying something different. We'll see in a moment. Then we saw enumerative induction, to a type of induction. Okay, type of induction. All these are in the content to help you contrast. If you see what the thing is not, then it helps you to see what it is. So when we are teaching, sometimes we show the contrast. Our focus may be on A, but we show you what A is not. We say not A is so and so and so and so. Why? So that by the time we clear up all that it's not, you have a little space left to now know what it is. A good method of learning. So enumerative induction is one of the types of reasoning inductively. There are 3 others that if you have done your reading well, you should know. What are they? Put up your hand and tell me. Enumerative induction is a type of induction. I mentioned 3 others in the recorded video and even on the slides that have been shared to all groups, and you are accountable for the content there. Anybody? Just put up your hand. This could have been one of your very easy multiple choice questions. I see only 2 hands. We are more than 200. Erica Blankson. Go ahead, Erica.
Sampling, analog, and causal reasoning.
Okay, thank you. Over 100, the 3 answers you've given can fetch you 70, even though they are all correct, but you said, and it's good. So it's causal, cause, C-A-U, causal reasoning, not casual reasoning. Okay, I intentionally made an emphasis on that in the video because some of your questions can come that way. And people will be so confident that they got the answer correct. They don't know why you have marked them wrong. And when you're pointing it out, they won't see. That's why I want to use dear lady's response to show us. So it is causal, cause, C-A-U-S-A-L. You see that topic in Unit 9. For your eyes, we don't need that yet. We'll start that continuing next week. Causal reasoning is one of the induced way of reasoning. It's an inductive reasoning. Madam also said analog. I say no. I know that she could have gone to the slides and did some quick, looking and peeping before she comes to answer. No, she tried to call it off her head. That's good. That shows that she's read. So the word is not analog, it's analogy. Analogy, comparison. You compare two events. And because of the similarities you see in the antecedent conditions, you suspect that then the other one you see in A, which is not yet in B, B would also have something like that. Now, that is also an inductive reasoning. It doesn't have necessity, associated with it. So causal reasoning, enumerative induction, argument based on analogy, and the last one is an argument based on sampling, to sample out. These are types of inductive reasoning, just like we studied types of deductive reasoning. What are the types of deductive reasonings we studied? I want answers. Put up your hand, please. All right, so you can revise it by yourself. Now, enumerative induction and causal reasoning are the ones that we will do in the course, because we will skip the chapter on Unit 8, which deals with what? Sampling. I keep repeating it in every meeting I have with the different groups, because some students are not reading course outlines. They are not engaging previous content before they got onto the course, or they just didn't attend, or they feel that you can just enter the course and just write an exam and go. It won't wash. If it will not wash, you will set it again if you have that posture. Perhaps not to this group, because Unit 8 is not part of the content they are dealing with this academic year. But people are studying it, and they can even say that no question came from Unit 8. Meanwhile, we spent all our time to learn it. Boldly advertising their ignorance without knowing. They won't even ask it. They will state it as if it were a fact. Like some people will send a message, why is it that all my group members have seen their assignment, their forum, and only I have not seen mine? Even this is quite legitimate. It's asked. Some will say, it's not fair that all my group members have seen their forum mark, and I have not. Forum. It hasn't even been graded. It hasn't been graded. Not a single one person like this forum has been graded. But you get someone speak that confidently, which is so unlike a critical thinker. And so I want us to have that posturing. Enumerative induction plus causal reasoning is the two types of inductive reasoning that the course will engage. We will not give too much attention to argument based on sampling and argument based on analogy, even though they are also inductive and they are in your Unit 8 of the textbook. The course will not focus on them. So that gives you a little, space to breathe when it comes to inductive reasoning. Then the last thing we want you to know in this presentation is how to distinguish law-like and statistical hypotheses. Now, what is on the screen, you have already seen induction, how you distinguish an inductive reasoning from a deductive one. It is just a recall. We are trying to remember what we know already. Let's have someone read this quickly. Read from the beginning to the end. Akomia, if you wanted to read in praise, go ahead. Or Zuta, Delight, any one of you. Quickly unmute and read from beginning to
end. In inductive arguments, premises provide some reasons or evidence to believe the conclusion will be probably true, not certain. The premises do not prove or guarantee the truth of conclusion. That is, no logical relationship between premises and the conclusion. The conclusion does not necessarily follow from the premises. The meanings of the content or information provided matters in confirming the degree of likelihood of truth of conclusion based on the strength of evidence presented. Note, conclusion may be false even if it is assumed that the premises are true, and no contradiction will be created.
So this one, we saw it earlier. I don't want to belabor it. Is there any questions with that? When we use our example, most Ghanaians like pineapples. My mother is a Ghanaian, therefore she likes pineapple. We all agree that if we were even to take it to be true that most Ghanaians like pineapple, and we also added that my mother is a Ghanaian, it will not necessarily mean necessity. Okay, it will not necessarily mean that therefore it means my mother also likes pineapple. Even if most Ghanaians like it, and my mother is a Ghanaian, it will not mean necessarily that my mother also likes. From the given premises, I am not necessarily obliged to accept the conclusion that my mother also likes pineapple. The point then is, it is possible to have the premises being true, a conclusion that comes with it being false, and that does not generate a contradiction. It only gives a degree of likelihood. Okay, so if you remember all that, then that's what induction is. Unlike deduction, which will look at which, if the premises are true, it will require that the conclusion must also be true, else you create a contradiction. So if I have several evidences that support, on my screen I'm projected, please, those who can. If I have several evidences that corroborate means it supports, it agrees with, the conclusion that I'm drawing. Yaya is a woman, she cheated. Kofi is a Yaya is a woman, she cheated. Ajia is a woman, she also cheated. Manza is a woman, she cheated. And so on. I keep listing and adding. Take note of that methodology, that method of inducing your conclusion. It has a name. I'll get to it shortly. But if I have so many such particular instances, evidences that support a claim, a generalization, then I would say that my general claim that, for example, all women are cheats. Apologies, ladies. Okay, if I said all women are cheats, that's a conclusion I want to make. And my reason is because Yaya is a woman and she cheated. Ajo is a woman, she cheated. Zainab is a woman, she cheated. Therefore, all women are cheats. If I did that, I would have given you good reason to believe that all women are cheats. But I haven't proven. Take note of the language. I may have confirmed, thank you, sir, but not proven that women are cheats. So on your screen now, you see that we have highlighted confirmation is not proof. This is slide number 4, apart from the introductory one and the outline. The first one is also a record. This is there. And no one mentioned that. What did you see in your slide? No one saw confirmation is not proof. To ask and say, I read it, if you could throw some light on it, or I understand it. Maybe you do understand it, that is fine. Okay. So we say that when we confirm a claim, we shouldn't say we have proven it. Why is it not a proof? If it is a proof, it cannot be other than what it is. It can be negative. If you say you have proven it, it means there cannot be a counterfactual. There cannot be an opposition to what you have found out. But that, unfortunately, doesn't happen with empirical studies, you see, especially when it is a corroboration, a support for the claim. You can have several particular instances that support the claim that what metals expand when heated, all metals expand when heated. You can have so many evidences, iron, tin, brass, bronze, look on the screen now. All these ones, you see, you can keep listing them like that on my screen. Gold expanded when it is silver, tin expanded when it is the bronze, metal expanded when it is, so you keep listing. The more of such evidences you have, which support your conclusion, see the conclusion down there, all metals expand when heated. The more you have, the higher the probability, the degree of probability, okay? Of what? Which probability? The probability of this statement, all metals expand when heated, being true. You are increasing the degree, the likelihood. That's what the lady read for our induction 1. You have not proven. See the language, proof. You can't say you have proven that all metals expand. Science has proven that all metals expand when heated. If it is a proof, then there shouldn't be the possibility of falsification of that statement. Science hasn't proven that all metals expand when heated. If all you are doing is giving us so many examples that support the claim, because there comes the reason. Because there is always the possibility that we would discover some other metal which will not expand when heated. If we did, the claim that all metals expand when heated would have been falsified. It would have been made false. Because there's always a potential to discover a counterfactual of a baby who will not be delivered in 9 months. 7 months, the baby says, I'm not staying in the tummy. Meanwhile, we thought we knew that all women deliver their babies after pregnancy, okay, in 9 months. If you took that statement, all women deliver their babies in 9 months, to be a proven claim, proof, the word proof, then it would have meant that there is no way we could ever encounter the opposite of that. But even as we speak now, we know that that has already been falsified, because some babies will come earlier than the 9 months. You don't tell them to remain in the tummy because they are going to break a certain law of biology. No. You go change your law. Unit 5. You see, we are back to Unit 5. You must now go and change your law and say, except for preterm babies, because then we have discovered some babies who will not stay in the tummy or the womb for 9 months. Some too will exceed the time. Anytime prices of goods and services are increased, quantity demanded for. Look at the statement. Anytime. That is not proven if you are only giving several examples to corroborate it. It is a confirmation. It is not a proof. This is what I want you to take note of. It's the language that we are dealing with in empirical studies. Okay. Technicalities there. Okay, so we go back to where we were earlier to show you on slide number 3 that when a reasoning, an inductive reasoning is described as inductive, then it means it gives you good reason to believe that the conclusion is probably true. Probability is never equal to 1. It's not a certainty. But in deduction, what we studied earlier in Unit 6, we would always have certainty because we are dealing with purely form, structure, pattern, not the subject matter, not the content. See? Where, like what we do in induction, where if you looked at the degree of likelihood, you could make a statement about what the strength of evidence presented. So you could say this is a strong inductive argument, or this is a weak inductive argument. You never talk of inductive argument as being valid because they cannot be. They are already invalid. Validity is a description for what? Deductive argument. And I think that is very important. So we moved from here and got here, and we reminded ourselves of the fact that confirmation is not proof. The fact that I've confirmed something doesn't mean I've proven it. What does it mean to confirm? When I have several particular instances as evidence, you see, that support the claim I'm making. The claim is a generalization. Then we'll say that we have only confirmed that general claim by the evidences we have provided, not that we have proven it. Okay, then the types of inductive arguments are down there for your revision. Here are quite a number of examples. We have seen inductive argument. There are examples of them to help you, make sense of it, even in a better way than we have done so far. So in all these instances, if you accepted the premises as true, 80% politicians are lawyers. Mr. Kofi is a politician, so the person wants to say he's a lawyer. Well, I could accept the two to be true, that 80% of politicians are lawyers and Mr. Kofi is a politician. I could accept that. It doesn't necessarily mean I must also accept that he's a lawyer. Mr. Kofi could have been part of the 20%. And that goes for all the other examples you see on your screen. You should practice. I've referenced a page over there in the textbook to help you understand it. Study them. I want you to get straight A, earn it. So study, don't sit and as for the class, you go, is so nice. I'm happy. But I would be happier if you earned your grade. And then you have a good representation of your grade on your transcript. And then you continue with your specific course. And then when you go looking for a job or you go creating a job yourself, people will know and acknowledge that you're a critical mind, not just one who can chew poor person for it, but you can think creatively and respond to practical problems of life. Okay, So now we went to enumerative induction, one type, like the way we moved from knowing deduction to start engaging the types of deductive arguments. You see, we saw modus ponens, tollens, etc. Here too, we are looking at types of induction, types of patterns of reasoning, where even if we accepted all the premises, we don't have the warrant to accept the conclusion also. So that kind of reasoning called induction have types. And one type is the one we call the enumerative induction. I've just used it moments ago in my examples. I just want to point it up to you. So look at on your screen where you have several instances like this. And you use it to support your general claim. We say you are reasoning inductively. Which type of induction is this? This is an enumerative induction. Okay, sometimes you don't count it like this. You don't enumerate, you don't list them several. Sometimes you only summarize. So I could have just said, all the women I have dated so far cheated. All the women I have dated so far. That would mean that I have a specific number of women in mind, okay? And it would still suffice as an enumerative induction. But a typically enumerative induction pattern is what you see on the screen, where you list them. You list several particular, I keep saying particular statement, because I'm expecting that at this stage, students will distinguish, or they will know how to distinguish a statement that is particular from the one that is general. If people still don't know it, we'll go and quickly revise that and come back. So we are going ahead to slides that you have earlier seen in Unit 6, when I was helping you distinguish universal generalizations from universal affirmative generalizations from universal negative generalizations. I use that opportunity to give you some slides on particular versus general. I want a good reader to read what you see on the screen. And this is what your friend pointed out the last time. Sylvester, please go ahead. Afterwards, I see Amapuku I can do. And then Naki Owusu answer. Very good. I see Frimpong KZS hand as well. So let's take Sylvester. Go ahead, sir. If Sylvester is busy, Amapuku, go ahead, please. Everybody is muted. So when I ask you to read, please unmute first. Okay. Frimpong Kezia, please read for us then.
Hello.
Go ahead, Kezia. We can hear you.
Particular versus general statements. Every statement proposition has two parts: the reference class and the attribute class. Example: that man is a bully. That man is the reference class. Since that man is specific, countable, and finite, we describe these statements as a particular statement.
Okay, so pause now. Thank you very, please pause now. Thank you very much. So even if, I didn't touch this, and we don't have to do that. If we did, then you use about 3 months to finish the test. But this is explicit. It's even captured into the slides for you in addition to a recorded video. The student just has to take responsibility and read. It is a tertiary institution, dear friends. So you can build yourself up and have a certain training as an academic at the tertiary level. This is tertiary. You don't have to be told things all the time. Otherwise, you become subservient to someone. They go and read and tell you what they saw. You are able to read and make meaning. Where the meaning is beyond you, then you need help. That's why you are in school. No problem about that. But this one is explicitly stated. There is no ambiguity there. Why is it being called a particular statement? Because it has a reference class, which is finite, countable. Hey, what is this reference class thing? Oh, it's just another way of talking about the subject of a statement. So we gave you an example. If I said, that man is a bully, I am referring to, look at the language, the reference, I'm referring to that man specific, that man. If the specific word confuses you, I can count what I'm referring to and finish counting. That man, the boy in the class, the women sitting under the tree there, All the metals counted, blah, blah, blah. All the metals there. It means I have a specific number in mind. It may be 100 million metals. We'll finish counting. It is in the language. So if I have a statement like this, it has a finite countable reference class. We call that statement particular statement. The other half of the statement, which we in English would have called predicate, is what? The attribute class. So every statement has a reference class and an attribute class. If you were doing English, you see every statement has a subject and a predicate. If you have a reference class that is infinite, some say infinite, uncountable, not specific, we will call it a generalization. So an example is what you see down there. Men are bullies. Men, really? When I say men are bullies, men are just me, that kind of thing. Men are not reliable, so they are not pillows, so we sleep on them. So men are bullies. Politicians are, women are cheat. Ghanaians are hospitable. These statements are not harmless. So you are speaking as if you are God. When you speak that way, there's an infinity attached to such generalizations. How do you know that? Look at the class. It's a man. This includes men of all times, all places, yet to be born, dead and gone already. Your son that you have not yet given birth to, who will grow up when he's born and become a man. All of them are inside men. Potentially, it is endless, infinite. Any X that is found, which is a man, will have this character of being a bully. This is what you are saying. Really? Eternity past, eternity present, eternity future is inside us. When you speak like that, politicians ask for women, be so then they. How many have you met? It's a generalization. So a general set, if you have a reference class that is general like this, doesn't watch very well, because I'm going to show you two types of generalizations in a jiffy. But you have to get the generalization concept first. The reference class is infinite, uncountable, it will never end. Then we'll call that statement generalization. And all these things I'm saying, even some of the examples I already recorded and put there. You don't need to come and hear it from me directly. That the posture is not good. We are not stressed teaching, but it is a posturing. And that one is not good. Okay. Then we are on the next slide now, showing you two types of generalizations. One of them, universal or law-like. It means it leaves no member of this general set out. Everybody is affected by the attribute. Universal means applies everywhere. Law-like means it's like a law. The law is no respecter of persons, no exemptions. So if I speak this way, see, men are bullies. The general class is a general one, so it's a generalization. Which type? The one that will not leave any member out. It will not excuse anyone. The attribute affects all the members. But look at this. If I said some men are bullies, the reference class is still men. But this time, men has been qualified. I've exempted some participants, some people in it. Some of the references in this class have been exempted. I said some men, 50% of men have done so and so and so. That's a statistical generalization. It's still a generalization because I'm talking about men. That one is an open set, never ending. But I said some. So if you are a public, you speak in public or you write speeches for great men, you want to be careful. You can help them very well in some of the statements they make. With this critical thinking skill, you could be a very good consultant, quietly working at the background and helping to present content in a way that will not find trouble for that journalism school or for that journalist or that politician. You see? Instead of saying politicians are corrupt, that will leave no one out. So you will be in serious trouble. But if you said most what did I say, politicians? Most politicians are corrupt, then perhaps if everyone is coming after you, could say, oh, I said most. I didn't say all. Say, are we the one you are talking about? I said, please, I said most. Why do you want to force yourself and be part of the most? When you should be part of the few left. Most doesn't mean all. So if I say most Ghanaians like pineapple. It is a statistical generalization from your screen now, because I said Ghanaians of all times, all places, yet to be born, dead and born. Ghanaian. So it's a generalization. But which type? Because I said most, then it makes it what? A statistical generalization. Now, why should we know these statistical or universal statements? Because it is going to form the crust of our examination of the reasoning that goes on inductively. Okay, so from premises to conclusion, if I'm moving from premises that have finite reference class and I conclude, see, let's go back up, and I conclude with a conclusion, look at it, like this example on our screen. From gold expanded when heated, bronze expanded when heated, etc. These are all particular statements. Now it makes sense to you. They're all particular instances. Then I conclude, therefore, all metals. The earlier one is a summary of the premises, so it's not the conclusion. The conclusion is this. Therefore, all metals expand when heated. If I concluded that way, I would have generated an inductive argument of a certain type, the one we call enumerative induction. And this is the first type of enumerative induction that ends with what? A generalization. That is what? Universal. We see that all metals expand when heated, all, no exception to the general set. So this one is an enumerative induction ending with what? A general statement. Which type? A universal generalization. How about this? This one is the current slide has an enumerative induction that is concluding with which type of generalization. I want a chorus answer, unmute and answer. If you look on the screen now, we have an enumerative induction, which is concluding with a generalization. Which type is that? Yeah. I don't know one. I said I want a chorus answer. Only one person responded.
Statistical generalization.
Okay, thank you very much. That's fine. Thank you very much. So a statistical generalization is the type of general statement whose reference class makes exempt some of the members of that general set, whereas a universal generalization does not exempt anyone. Okay, now let's go and practice and see if we are well versed in that before we pretend that we are continuing. On our screen now, practice verifiable versus confirmable statement. I haven't introduced you yet to verifiable and confirmable, the language, verifiable statement and confirmable statement. It's a good time to do it. So when a statement has a finite reference class, and we all know that that will make that statement a particular statement. So if a statement is particular, then the empirical scientist describes that as what? Verifiable. You can verify it. Ube to be a verify. The word verification is strong. It's not the same as confirmation. Confirmation or confirmable is not the same as what? Verifiable. So I'm helping you see it. It's technical. That's why someone has to point it out to you, like it was pointed out to me. There are certain statements you can directly test it. You can directly test that statement. Why? Because the reference class is finite. If I said Ajo is a cheat, Ajo, the lady Ajo is a cheat, that can be directly tested. All we need to do perhaps would be to put CCTV cameras in the room when we say I'm the man and I say I'm going to the office. Then I find some CCTV camera, maybe, okay? You shouldn't do that if you are confident in yourself, but I'm just showing you directly testable. You put it there and you leave. If she's cheating, sometime you will find out, you see, through that, or you set someone to follow her wherever she's going. The statement is what? Ajo, specific, direct, particular. Ajo is a cheat. So you can directly test to verify whether Ajo is a cheat or not. What about if I said women are cheats? How do you directly test that? Some are not even born yet. We have already understood the meaning of the statement. If you say women are cheats, it includes those who are even not yet born, girls who are going to go to daycare and grow up and become women. How do you directly test? Look at my statement. You are testing directly. How? That is not possible. So if the statement on our screen now, if a statement is verifiable, then it means that it has a finite, you already know that, specific countable reference class. That is, it is a particular statement. Now you see how the concepts are making sense to you. And it's therefore directly testable. An example, I'm repeating the same example so you can connect to it. That man is a bully, a specific man. Maybe you are referencing a lecturer B or some senior high school headmaster B. That man is the will bully you, that man. That we can directly test. But if I say men are bullies, we can directly test that. Even though it's testable, we don't test it directly. We test it through others. So we take a subset of men. That's what research does. Those of you do empirical research, you go around, get questionnaires, you gather some data, a sample. We told you we will not do sampling, but you sample out a few and question them and observe and do this and do that. And then you draw a general conclusion about that reference class. Okay. So men are bullies. The statement men are bullies is testable, yes. You can test to ascertain the truth or falsity of this statement, but we don't test it directly. That's why it comes with a weakness, which Reginald alluded to. He mentioned it. Men are bullies because of the reference class that is infinite. We have just learned that it will not be a particular statement, but it will be what? A general statement. And so we cannot test it directly, but we do test it anyway, indirectly, through the subset. So we pick some members of the set, and then we find out what is true of them and extend that to the whole set. But some are not yet born. So we may find some, and then we will test them, and the attribute will not apply. You see. So the fact that you know some men who are bullies doesn't mean you have grounded with certainty the claim that all men are bullies. That is what we said earlier. Confirmation is not proof. Now, if you see the connection now, then you have done more than 60% of Unit 7 already. Plenty content, but it is just an understanding of the technicality. If you get the mean, so particular means finite reference class, and therefore you will describe that as what? Verifiable, which means you cannot, you can test it only what? Directly. You test it directly. See, about 6 concepts submerged into one paragraph like that with understanding. And you can give your own example. Any statement at all whose reference class is finite. That man is a bully. That is Kofi. Kofi is a boy. Stuff like that. That metal expanded when it, iron will expand when it, that woman gave birth to twins. We can test, we can verify, we can observe to ascertain truth or falsity. If I say women have done this, politicians have done that, pastors do this, imams have so and so and so, that one in the Enumerative are not directly testable, even though they are also testable. And so if you got this distinction, let me see if I've left something at the top there, then we'll move on. Quickly. So you know the 2 types of enumerative induction, the one that ends with what? Law-like hypothesis, we said that already, and then the one that ends with statistical hypothesis. We saw some examples. I think we can go now. Yeah. Then we looked at why confirmation is not proof. We contrasted it with deduction, where if your conclusion is a valid deduction, it will be a proof. We've seen all that already. And so we introduce another concept down there, why we will call the conclusion of an inductive argument as what? A hypothesis. A hypothesis, this is following from what we have said so far. Why a hypothesis? A hypothesis means that expression itself was subject to further study. So it's not the conclusion, as in we have concluded, we have finished. No. Okay, see how I've introduced that? If you were doing deduction, the conclusion would be conclusion, as in agbena, finished, concluded. We don't need to go back to it. Induction, no, especially enumerative induction, where you have just several instances that you have used to ground a generalization. We tell you that that generalization conclusion, supposedly that you've drawn, is not a conclusion, sir, because it is still subject to what? Further study. So you should take note of that. When you have a general statement in empirical science, we call it a hypothesis. So a claim like metals expand when heated is a hypothetical statement. Women deliver in 9 months, hypothetical. Whenever you throw a ball up, it will come down. Well, that's hypothetical. Whenever the clouds gather, it rains. It's a hypothetical statement. They are all hypotheses. That's why sometimes the meteorologist tells us it will rain tomorrow. And that day, the sun shines like crazy. Because the findings, that general claim that was made, will be based on what? What has been observed over and over and over again since time immemorial. Then we draw conclusions from it. But yesterday must not necessarily be like tomorrow. It is empirical science, so it's not deductive science. We are not adding mathematical figures where we'll be dealing with what? Normative concepts, how we want to do things. This is how we prescribe the doing of things here. When we add 2 to 3, it must be equal to 5. That's normative. Remember value judgment, remember definitions. Okay? But when we do empirical study, we are doing factual observation. What is out there? So when you go and you see, then you come and draw your conclusion. If you go and it has changed, you change your law. And so back to where we are now. I just showed you this to help you understand it. That when you have a conclusion, supposedly, that was drawn from empirical, particular, verifiable statement, that conclusion, which is a generalization, is described as what? A hypothetical statement. See how many slides covered? So maybe someone will read this for those who need summation. Let's have you read. I'll take Naki Owusu answer. Naki, please read what you see on your slide. Real quick.
Okay. Particular statements have finite.
Read the title. Please read the title.
Verifiable evidence and confirmable hypothesis.
Very good.
Particular statements have finite reference class. They are directly testable and therefore useful as evidence or premise. We describe such statements as verifiable statements. Generalizations or general statements have infinite reference class. They are indirectly testable and therefore useful as hypothesis or conclusion. We describe such statements as confirmable statements. Note, it's all about the reference class.
Well done. Thank you very much. I have special students in this group, so I'm a bit particular. That's why I came in like that, so that we don't wrongly inform them. So the point that the lady just made is this: because particular statements have finite, countable reference class, it makes sense to use such statements as your evidence, as the premises, as the reasons supporting your conclusion. See that? Because that one can directly be tested. If you go and give me evidence, reasoning, remember argument, evidence leading to conclusion, reasons leading to conclusion, premises leading to conclusion, okay? So you are arguing, you are trying to give us reasons why we should accept a certain conclusion you are drawing. That's the chain. We are moving from the unit 3 all the way here. I'm trying to do that. And I'm doing an empirical study. I'm reasoning inductively, where it is possible that even if they accepted all the premises, they could still reject the conclusion that comes with it, like the law court. Then I have a certain responsibility to present evidence that all parties can directly test. See the expression, directly test. That is why it is better to use what? Evidential statement, to use verifiable statement as what? Evidence or premises when you are reasoning. And then rather conclude with the hypothetical one, the one that is a generalization. That way, the person assessing the connection between your premises and conclusion can test directly the evidence you have provided and see how it corroborates or otherwise what your conclusion. Simply put, Use particular statement as evidence. Another word for evidence from your textbook, you will see data, observation statement. There are plenty in that unit. The thing with our course is that sometimes people know evidence. They don't know that evidence is also called premise, or it's also called reasons. So go to the textbook all the time in your revision so that you mop up nicely. Otherwise, you may know so much. I didn't know that if they said Dr. Miles, she's the same as Dr. Nancy Barford. And you say, oh, I'm going to look for Dr. Miles. It has happened to me several times. People will come looking for you. They are sitting in your office, you are there, they say, please, I'm looking for Dr. Miles. But when I went, they said she's not there. But I should come to the office, like the office to inform the visiting Dr. Nancy Jimfi. So I don't know, I'm confused. I said, hey, I'm the same person with plenty names. That's all. It helps you to know the alternative ways of referencing the same thing. That's why I put that in bracket there, and I'm telling the class. Evidence leading to what? A hypothesis. Premises leading to what? A conclusion. What's the point here? Particular statements have finite reference class, and therefore they are better used as what? Evidential statement than the hypothesis. In all cases, to tell whether a statement is general or particular, we are being admonished to look at the reference class. Okay, it's a good time now to do our practice. So question 1, the disease is contagious. Is this particular or general? Want a chorus answer quickly, Pa. General or particular?
Particular.
Very good. Okay, example 2. Is example 2 general or particular?
General.
Yes, Ghanaians are allergic.
Madam General.
Okay, if it's general, which type of generalization is it?
Madam, statistical generalization.
Statistical generalization.
Very good. Those of you who may not like the chorus answers, don't worry, it helps, Papa. It helps. You hear someone, see few Ghanaians are hospitable, the person will say, particular, as if it's so wrong. And then we will all help ourselves make it better, rather than asking one or two people all the time. And perhaps, just perhaps, the majority of the class may not have gotten the concept yet. Okay, so once in a while, I allow for that. And then it also sets us free a little. We want to hear ourselves and know that we are alive. Okay, we are already over 200 students, so it's a fair deal. Now let's go to the third one. The liquid in that bowl is poisonous. General or particular?
Particular.
Particular.
That's fine.
Particular.
So all the times that we say yes. So all the times that we said it's particular, we can now connect and say then it's verifiable. So when it's particular, then it's verifiable. When it's verifiable, then it means it's directly testable. When it's directly testable, then it means you can use it as evidence. See the connection? Yes. When it's directly testable and we can use it as evidence, then we say it's verifiable and therefore particular statement, therefore finite reference class. That's the chain of connections between those or among those words. Now, when it is general, whether statistical generalization or universal, universal generalization is also called law-like generalization. Don't forget. So when it is either statistical or law-like, it is still a generalization. We would therefore say it is what? Confirmable. All right. So on our screen, some few pointers there. See 6 and 7. They look alike, but I tell you, their depth is not the same. If I said all voters prefer a recount of ballots, and another person said all the voters prefer the recount of the ballot, we are not saying the same thing. One is making a very directly testable statement. The other one is speaking like he's God. So look at them again. 6 says all voters prefer a recount of ballots. Obi otu ababia pesi esan kan bio. Ofen money for shike ka afata pay to na aka ni go. You know. Obi otu ababia what ababia opede esan kan. I just repeated the same thing to make meaning to some folks. Now listen. The person said all voters prefer one or two abenyinara. All those who vote. That's what the person is saying. It is a generalization, a law-like one, a universal one at that. Then this other person says all the voters. One or two abenyinara. Those who voted. Many from Oshiki. Jame famo ni from Oshiki. She many from and you want to abenyina, name more to yen. And you want to what to abenyina, more what to yen. Not all who vote, but those who voted. You see the difference? So 6 and 7, one is the 6 is what? A universal generalization. Therefore, it is a confirmable statement. It depends on other statements for confirmation because it cannot be directly tested. We test it indirectly. Okay. While 7, which said all the voters interviewed said they would prefer a count of the ballot. 7 is what? Verifiable. Because it's a particular statement. All doesn't confuse us at all. We are interested in the reference class. The same with our universal negations there. No student registers unless false. This is also a universal statement. We have already seen it in Unit 6. Universal negation. That's how we called it there. If X is a student, then X will not register unless he falls them. This is universal. But look at 9. None of the students in that class registered for their course. This particular. It's not a universal statement, and you can all see that in the very last one, which I want a cross answer to look at it very well. 80% of all retail stones are not real diamonds, general or particular, and why?
General.
Statistical.
General.
General.
Madam General. General.
Statistical.
Madam
General.
it's General. Statistical.
General. 80%.
Thank you very much. Some sister becomes with vim pan and shout particular. I don't know who, so please help me. Okay, it's fine. So let me help those who need a response. See, look at it very well. I said all 80% of all retailed stones, all retailed stones. Stones be a retail. All, that's a generalization. Yes. I just qualified it with 80%, made an exception to the general set. So this is a statistical generalization. Example 10. 80% of all retailed stones are not real diamonds. Okay, so this is a generalization, but which type? The statistical one. I could have said 80% of the retail stones in my mother's shop are not real diamonds. We have a specific group in mind now. A countable. Can I finish counting all retail stones? No. Some shops are even yet to be put up. 300 years to come. Potentially, is the language we are looking at. Some now can see that shop will be put up and they'll start selling bread a little and then they'll go bankrupt and change to oranges and go bankrupt and come to clothing and go back until they start doing retail stores. Before we go and look inside to see if they are real diamonds or not. The person speaking in a general sense. It's infinity. He just qualified it with 80% to be safe. That even in that general set, I don't mean all of them there. Okay, so this is a generalization. But if I had said 80% of all, 80% of all, if I had said 80% of all the retail stores in my mother's shop, see the specificity, the countability, you can count it. Then you would say that is what? Particular statement. I think that on that note, you need to practice more. There are several examples in your textbook. There's one in the book that said, all those who contract the human equivalent of mad cow disease have done so and so and so and so. People get confused. They don't know why that has been placed under generalization. All those who contract the human equivalent of mad cow disease. Is speaking in the everyday terms. It's a generalization. That's why I told you I'm not doing English, I'm doing logic. if I had asked you for the reference class for that, you would have just said those who contract okay? All those who contract COVID-19 are quarantined. If I speak this, I'm speaking generalization. But if I said those who contracted the COVID-19, then they have been quarantined, particular statement is verifiable now. Okay, so you have to engage that. That's why induction is more difficult. If you are evaluating inductive, it's more difficult than deduction. Deduction is the keys, patterns, rules. If you know the rules, you apply it, back, you are done. Induction, for look at the subject matter, for interrogate. Naija brothers, you are the reason I'm speaking a little PG. For look inside. Make check say the content, the follow before you can do a correct assessment. That's induction. You just don't follow rules. Okay, you look at the subject matter, the content. Did I say most of you? Okay, if I said 2 out of 10 men have done so and so, therefore I'm drawing a conclusion. Look at, I said 2 out of 10. That's 20%. The conclusion will be weak, even if it followed at all. Okay, but if I said almost all women have done so and so, then immediately, given that the premises were true, the conclusion will have a higher degree of likelihood of being true. So induction is quite cumbersome in how we examine or evaluate or assess their value. All right. Any questions?
No. Yes, please.
Go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
Please, so with the verifiable and the confirmable, sometimes does the pen in the person's statement conclude if whether it is confirmable or verifiable?
Just ask yourself, yes, is the person speaking direct? I just gave you instances like that. All the people who contracted COVID-19 were quarantined. Yes. What's the reference? I'm referring to all those who contracted COVID-19. I have a specific group in mind. It's verifiable. Yes. If I said all those who contract COVID-19 are quarantined, one COVID you're quarantined. I'm speaking everyday tense. It has become a generalization. Only D. Look at what D did. and ED, contract and contracted. Yeah. So you are very right.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
you. So, thank you to say we've done there. Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Please, I read something and I want to clarify whether it's particular or general statement.
Go ahead.
Meat from Germany is infected with bacteria, and I want to know whether it's general or particular.
What do you think? What do you think? Meat from Germany.
For me, I know it's it's particular.
Really? Meat from Germany?
Yeah.
That includes meat from Germany yesterday, meat from Germany today, meat from Germany yet to come. It's a generalization, a universal generalization.
Okay.
Because of it, you see, the emphasis is on how the person is speaking, how he's speaking, not even what he's saying, but how. If you say meat from Germany, you are speaking for meat of all times, all places from that Germany. Okay. If I had said the meat that came from the meat that came from Germany last year was infected, that's different. If I say meat from Germany, it's just like saying women.
Okay.
Men. Green tables. I was going to the green tables bit on our screen. Green tables are scarce these days. Green tables, reference class. All green tables are scarce these days. What you are referring to will never end. These are all directly from your textbook. Very good. So keep practicing and thinking through them. So when folks are talking, then you say, please, can you just qualify what you are saying? You say nurses, they don't take care of their patients. I think you should be patient with that because you haven't met all of them yet. We want to correct something, but I think how we are speaking can be very offensive. There is a nurse in some Tokrobim, in some village somewhere, the way she's killing herself, taking care of patients. Some are in her own bedroom. She's babysitting some mothers don't have money. She's driving some of them home and all that. So I think we want to be careful when we say that nurses are so. You see, because you're a critical mind, you know that the language is problematic. Politicians are corrupt. Then the person says, yeah, then it's gone. Meanwhile, some two are not. Okay, my brother, yeah. So that's the answer, right? Now to the screen.
Okay, thank you, Doc.
Quickly. You're welcome. What? There's another question. Bless, go ahead.
Doc, please, if you are not in this group, where do you get the audio?
Oh, bless. I'm recording. I can't control myself. Bless. Please, when you finish, go and look for it. You'll find it. Hey, they are saying me, Brian.
I swear.
Oh, where are they, Brian? Is it part of the question? I'll share it. You can look for it on YouTube. I think we have the recordings. All the lectures, okay, most of us would have it on our academic channel. This one will be on my academic channel, okay. Hey, they are saying the bride. Look for my name on YouTube, you'll find. After this, if I'm not in this group, where will you find the link? Look for my name on that YouTube, okay. Dr. Nancy Miles Jimfi. Miles is spelled M-Y-L-E-S. E for Emmanuel S. And Miles, Dr. Nancy Miles Jimfi on YouTube. It will take you there. Or you can send me an email. I'll share it. I'll share the channel link or whatever. What's the name? Channel link or something. Why? Then you go to the critical thinking playlist and find this year's recordings. The content has been the same for a while now. So you will find past and present content and revise, including the current one. All right. Please, is there any other question? Okay, so we move on quickly. What we have tried to do is to study in a very concise manner, free-spirited, but still well-focused. We are not missing the important things. And we are not also taking too much for granted so that we think we know until they ask us the question. Then we know. Okay, so we have mopped up well. We are moving to degrees of confirmability. And this is getting closer to the very important question Reginald asked. I haven't forgotten. I'm doing a build up there to help those who are still trailing to join us. Then we get there. His question is around this area, the degree of predictability, confirmability. What's the other word? Verifiability doesn't have degree. So we'll look at those concepts in a very, very patient manner, but we'll hit it because they are technical terms. Look on your screen now. We know some examples of statistical hypotheses. Maybe someone will read that to help our friends. So I take Eunice's question. Eunice, please read for us.
Examples of statistical hypotheses. Some Americans are allergic to pineapples. 2. 80% of all retail stones are not real diamonds. 3. Most Christians worship on Sundays. 4. Few Christians approve of same-sex marriage. 5. 2 out of every 10 men are
Egoistic.
Egoistic.
They are driven by their ego. The other word was few Africans, but it's fine. It didn't change what we want to put across, so I didn't really need to correct it. He said few Christians approve, but what we see there is few Africans. And I'm saying that it won't matter much. The concept is, what are we focusing on in one? Americans, that's general. But we qualified it with some. We said exempted some. So it makes it what? Statistical hypothesis. And that runs throughout to the end. Then for law-like hypothesis, we have no cat is a dog, all voters prefer a recount of ballot, no student register, Ghanaians are hospitable, alcoholics are womanizers, stuff like that. We learned how to open them out when we did deduction, if you recall. Okay. We said, if I said Ghanaians are hospitable, I'm saying if X is a Ghanaian, then X is hospitable. Alcoholics are womanizers. I'm just saying if X is an alcoholic, then X will be a womanizer. Okay, remember that. So we see how I'm connecting something we are doing ahead of, but it still speaks of what we have done already for another reason. So you connect it quickly and then it throws that light out. No cat is a dog. If X is a cat there, then it cannot be a dog. No student registers unless false. If X is a student, then X will not register unless false. Okay, so this should give you a good idea to firm up the distinction between the two types of generalizations, statistical and law line. Now, note, there's something written in the note to your right side on your screen now. It said what? Statistical hypotheses are easier to confirm. You can easily make that one true. Confirmation means making it true. You can easily make a statistical hypothesis true if you were comparing it with a general hypothesis. The statistical one is easier to make true. If I want to say, therefore, some women, let's go to that our screen. If I'm trying to conclude that, there we go, we have it on our screen. If I said I dated Amma and she cheated, I dated Iha, she also cheated, I dated Mansa, she cheated, Afitu cheated, yesterday he said now, has also cheated, and I conclude. Look at my conclusion. Based on these several examples, particular instances, I conclude, therefore, all women are cheats. This, my conclusion, has not been strongly supported yet because all women, this is universal. This is difficult to substantiate, to support, to confirm. Why? Because of the empirical content. I've introduced a new word now. Because of the weight of what it carries in its reference. Reference class, not some. All women, empirical content. It has a big reference. That is what we mean by empirical content. And so if I'm grounding such a universal claim with evidence, I'll have more work to do. It will be difficult to make this true because of the generalization. But if I had concluded by saying, from all these premises, I conclude, so most women are cheats. All women are cheats, and most women are cheats. I'm not saying the same thing. One is saying, oh, there's no exception to the set of women. That's difficult to defend, difficult to confirm. The other one, which says, so most women are cheats, is easier to confirm. That's the point we are making there. So that you see the second example here, which I put on my screen. See this one. Where the enumerative induction concludes with what? A statistical generalization. That is easier to confirm. You easily make that true if you were comparing such an argument with one that ends with a universal generalization. It's simply that. So if the statistical one is easier to confirm, then it tells you that the universal one is easier to falsify. You can easily make that one false. If I go running my mouth and saying that, as for men, they are bullies, men are bullies, men are bullies, all that we need to make it false will be what? Just one man that we find who is not a bully. Just one. It will make all the thousands of years of work we've done useless. If we found just one metal which will not expand when heated, it negates all the thousands and thousands and thousands of metals that we discovered which expand when heated. And so on, based on that, we conclude that all metals expand when heated. You see that? If we found just one which will not expand when heated, it will make this statement false. Just one. So it is easier to falsify, to make false a universal generalization than a statistical generalization. If I say the other way around, then I'll say it is easier to make true what? The statistical hypothesis than the general, the universal hypothesis. So one is easier to make false, falsifiability. Which one is easier to make false? All of us, is it universal or statistical? I want a chorus answer. Which one is easier to falsify? Universal or statistical?
Universal. Can I hear that?
Universal.
Thank you very much. That is very important. So, let's continue. You're mopping up. You have some few slides to go. So the point then is statistical hypotheses are easier to confirm. Therefore, we thought then if we can easily make that one true, then it should be valuable to the scientists. No. Amazingly not. We say, therefore, that one rather, which you can easily make true. I'm talking about statistical hypothesis. That one is less valuable to the empirical scientist if you were comparing it with what? The law-like hypothesis, universal one. So if I had the statement, all metals expand when heated, sitting on my table, and the other statement is most metals expand when heated, sitting on my table, as an empirical scientist, the lesson here is the empirical scientist will prefer, value, cherish the one that is easily possible to make false, which is what? All metals expand when heated, than the statistical one. However, if he had a statistical hypothesis and a verifiable statement, don't get confused, particular statement, okay? So if I had most women cheat and Ajo cheats on my table, then as an empirical scientist, I would here prefer what? Most women cheat because it has a bigger empirical content. I'm talking about the reference class now. Therefore, what? I want someone to read this so we don't miss anything. Oh dear. Let me take Eunice. Oh, Eunice, you just read it. Eunice, question, read it for me. After this, Mante, Margaret, be on standby. You read the next one for us.
Degrees of confirmability. Statistical hypotheses are easy to confirm than
The word is
law-like
easy.
hypotheses.
Why? It's easier and it's pertinent. That's I point that out because you're comparing two. If we were comparing three, then perhaps it will have a different relationship. I'll show you in a minute. So it's like good, better, best, tall, taller, tallest. So if I'm comparing statistical with law-like, dear, then the statistical one will be easier to confirm. Can you see that? But if I were comparing three things, the verifiable statement, the statistical hypothesis, and the law-like one, then the one that will be easiest to confirm will be the verifiable one, but there will be three of them now. So let's go slowly. Don't overlook anything here. I want us to get some concept. Please go ahead.
Okay. That makes the statistical hypothesis less valuable to the empirical mind. The law-like hypothesis is easier to falsify. Therefore, they are more valuable to the empirical scientists.
Good. So if I were comparing law-like hypothesis with statistical hypothesis, then I would prefer the law-like one to the statistical one. But if I were comparing statistical one to verifiable statement, that is where the reference class is not even general at all, then I would choose rather the statistical one because it gives me information, more content, more information than the verifiable one. Let's practice that. So I'm going to look for some examples, then we'll come. Yeah. Now, Reginald, we are in your territory. On the screen, we see compare degrees of falsifiability, empirical content, predictive power, and scientific value. Predictive power is just a consequence of empirical content. It follows from the fact that you have more empirical content, reference class. If what is inside the reference class is so much, then it can tell you more about the world. You can get some elaborations on my lecture delivered if you play it. If the content, the empirical content, if I'm saying all women have done so and so and so, and then my friend says most women have done so and so, what I said carries more weight. It has more empirical content. I'm telling you something about more, something that is more than what my friend said, because I said all women have done so and so and so. She said most women have done so and so and so. Okay. Now, if I have more empirical content, then I can predict more. I can prophesy. I can say more about women. When you see, if someone told you, hey, as for women, they are dangerous to coffee. Be careful with women. You know how I'm not using so many scientific, I'm using social science so you can learn quickly. Because those ones are accessible to us. Now, if we told you that, then anyone, any ex at all that will pass by who is a woman, you will watch. You will open your eyes wide. because it gives you more predictive power, the power to predict. If I said something that is true of all women, then you will know about all women. Okay, but if I said some women, then it is not every woman passing by that the attribute will apply to. So you have less knowledge, therefore you can predict lesser than if you know more. Okay, then if I had just said not all women, not most women, but I said Ajo or Zaina or Fafa. If I said Fafa, it's just that particular person. The information is so limited to her alone. It's not to a quantum of people. So it's all about the reference class. A general statement, the universal one, therefore, will have more empirical content, a higher predictive power, will be more valuable to the scientists, and will be the easiest to falsify. Then the next in command will be statistical, which will also have more so and so than a verifiable statement. Okay, it's all in the reference class, like we said earlier. The one that is very annoying is the pseudo-scientific statement. We'll get there shortly, but let's make sure we understand and we can apply falsifiability, empirical content, predictive power, scientific value. Let's try. So the first statement on the screen, you're going to compare to tell us which one has the higher empirical content and why you say so. If I say the Earth's orbit around the sun is elliptical, that is saying that the Earth's going around the sun, orbiting, going around it. So the Earth's orbit around the sun is elliptical. The second person said all the planets that were discovered by Kepler before 1620 AD have elliptical orbits. First one said the Earth. Your focus is the reference class. Don't stress yourself. The Earth. The second one, all the planets that were discovered by Kepler. The third one, all planets have elliptical orbits. There were I think there were 8 others in the book. I just picked 3 to help you to compare these 3. Which of them has the highest empirical content? I want a chorus answer. 1, 2, or 3.
Number 3.
3.
Madam, 3.
3.
I'm still waiting for more.
3.
Very good.
3.
Oh. 3 is correct. 3 is correct. Well done. 3 has the highest empirical content. That should tell us then that 3 has the highest predictive power also. Yes, 3 is correct. It tells us also then that 3 has the highest predictive power. Hey, Brown network in your papa. It tells us that then 3, example 3 on our screen will also have the highest predictive power in addition to having the highest empirical content. Now watch, it will be more valuable. It will be the most valuable from the 3 to the empirical scientists. And it will be the easiest to falsify. We are comparing the 3 here. It will be the easiest to falsify. If I say Legon student, there's an example in the textbook. I saw some Legon students in Equaf who have done so. So let's use something else. Legon students like patching. That's one. And someone else says, most Legon students like patching. Then a third person says, my roommates who are Legon students like patching. See the degrees of falsifiability, degrees of empirical content. The one who said Legon students like patching, universal generalization, bigger empirical content, bigger predictive power, higher scientific value, easiest to falsify. Legon students like patching. Do you know that includes Legon students that are yet to be admitted? Someone who is bombing at SHS, resitting 17 times, who will finally get into Legon is included in what we are saying. Legon students. So that's a universal generalization, easiest to falsify, high empirical content, high predictive power, very high in scientific value. Then the next one, from my example, from Legon students, the next one I said, most Legon students. That is still a generalization like we've learned, but it's a statistical one. So if you compare this one to the earlier one, then this will have less empirical content. But if you compare most Legon students to my roommates, then most Legon students will have more empirical content, more predictive power, more of everything than the verifiable one. Okay, that was the point of our example. So look at 1 and 2 on your screen. The Earth's orbit around the sun is elliptical, and then 2 is all the planets that were discovered by Kepler. Blah. They are both particular statements. Can you see that? Because they are all verifiable. The 2, the Earth. The second one says all the planets. So if I asked you which has a higher empirical content, will it be 1 or 2? We are comparing 1 and 2 pair, not 3. 3 is not included. Which one will have higher empirical content? 1 or 2?
2.
Number 2. Madam 2.
The 2.
Number 2.
Very good. Very good. Very good. It means you understand now. Very good. Why 2? Now that one I want someone to answer. Why 2? So who would want to do that for us? Your hands up. Okay, please go ahead, my lady.
Yes, madam, it is 2 because it is a planet. And then the 2 is talking about all the planets.
Excellent. So for 1, we are referring to only 1 planet. 1, it could be Earth. But 2, example 2, it could even be 2 planets. You let's say there are only 2. 2 is still more than 1. So 2 has more content than 1. Example 2 has more content than example 1. Finito. That's the reason. Very easy. I tell you, I can set about 50 questions from this slide alone. They won't be the same. But if you understand
trust you.
empirical content, not me as in you, I mean the team, So think about it. If you know empirical content, you understand predictive power, you understand scientific value, degrees of falsifiability. That was what Reginald does. I'm sure by now his confusion will be cleared. Okay, if you know, you will know these big concepts. It's just because you understand reference class. It's just because you understand the reference of a statement. What is the person referring to? If you need to, from there to help you know particular versus general, even the types of generalizations, what to make of that when you are reasoning either inductively or deductively, how you open out a statement to become a conditional. It's all tied to this reference class. So if you got that, we'll practice it and practice and practice, play back and be able to use it to form your own examples, then you are done. Now, the annoying one is where the statement pretends to be telling you something that has content, empirical content, but asumwa is a lie. We call it pseudo-scientific statement. I was shocked. Some of you gave examples of that, or you touched on it, and it's good. It's very good. So let's read this slide to wrap up. We are done. I asked someone to be on standby, my lady. I think it was sister. Please, if you are there, read. Your name was on the screen. I kept it. Where are Anna? Okay, maybe she's busy now. So let's ask someone. Elijah Opoku. Elijah, pour the fire on us this morning.
Okay, madam, please, I'm reading. Scientific statements as testable or falsifiable. First point is, to be scientific is to be capable of being true or false. That is to say, to be testable. It makes sense to research only if what we found earlier could turn out to be false. So uncertainty is a virtue in science. Therefore, a statement that cannot be false is a pseudo-scientific statement. It is not a genuine scientific statement. Example, tautological statements like tomorrow it will rain or it will not rain, and she is pregnant or she is not pregnant are always true. Therefore, pseudo-scientific.
Well done. Well done. Read the last part. I'll explain.
Okay.
Falsifiable. You say you do critical thinking. Who give you worse?
Okay.
Scientific.
Okay. So falsifiability.
able to be false is a sign that the statement is scientific. It is valued by the scientists. The last point says, verifiable or confirmable statements are testable or scientific.
Well read. Very good. So let me just mop up nicely for you. In all the instances we've had, from particular to general to verifiable to confirmable to law-like, statistical, all the point we were making about these statements of empirical science, we got to a point that we had to show you that one statement which has a final reference class will be described as verifiable, therefore directly testable. Then we said the other one whose reference class is infinite, we will say is what? Indirectly testable. Either way though, those two are still what? Testable. You can test it. Why? Because it can be false. The expression has the potential of being false based on what we observe out there. Okay. So if I say tomorrow it will rain, this is a scientific statement. Why? Because if tomorrow comes, we will tell whether it actually did rain or it didn't rain. If I say women are cheats, that can also be false. Why? I could have some instances of women. See, I can test indirectly. I know I can't test the whole set, but I can pick some and use to make an assessment and tell. If I pick them and I got even one that is not a cheat, then I've falsified the whole thing. Even though I didn't get the whole pack, I'm still able to falsify it. All I need is one. So it's falsifiable. Now the problem is when we have a certain statement pretending to be scientific in nature, in other words, pretending to have the capacity to be either true or false. In other words, it comes as if it can be false. But no matter what you observe in everyday life, in observation, whatever you see will make it true. If you go, so the example I gave you, tomorrow it will rain or it will not rain. That's what the person said. And when I gave you the narration in the lecture, I told you, you want the meteorologist to tell you whether it will rain or not, so that you know what to do, whether you harvest your crops or you rather start plowing the land for the next planting. You want that information to do your something. You're asking the guy who says he can see into the realms. Please, will I win the bet? Which team will win the match? So that I know how to bet. Don't go and bet. I'm just using things you can relate to easily. When you ask the guy, he says that, oh, I think that you ask the brother, he looks inside the realms, whatever realms he's looking at, he tells you tomorrow's match, Barca will win or Barca will not win.
Barca will win, madam.
Like what my friend
Barca will win.
But that Barca, it is the only team in the world. All the rest, they are just pretending to be teams.
Falsify your statement.
Let me teach my team. My power, that's all. Let me. I'm holding the mic. I can say whatever I want to say. There's only one team. All the rest are pretending to be team. I was just saying that. So you ask this gentleman because you want to know what will actually happen. To guide, you want information, but the person is speaking dogma. He's speaking in a way that it can be false. So you ask him, oh, Barca win or Barca will not win, or Barca will not win the match. The person answers, and oh, I think tomorrow Barca will win or Barca will not win. If Barca draws, it's still a not win. So
Madrid will win.
When you speak that way, a critical thinker like you and I, who is critically examining the language the person is using, should Matthew, I'm teaching why. When I finish, I'll show you why Barca is the only team. All the rest are trying to be cheap children's team like Man U, whatever. They are all children's team. I'll disable the microphone.
If we say
Paris.
I've heard you. No problem. I know that I'll get trouble for that. So normally when I'm finishing my session, then I say that. But it will help you remember our discussion on pseudo-scientific statements. The guy didn't say anything. He just gave you a tautologous statement, a statement that is necessarily true. If the team plays and Barca wins, what he said is true. If they play and Barca doesn't win, what he said is still true. The other one even comes out clearer. Tomorrow it will rain or it will not rain. You are the meteorologist. Tell me whether it will rain. Tell me it will rain, full stop. Then we'll wait. If tomorrow comes and it doesn't rain, we know that what you said is false. Okay, that is a scientific statement, the one that can be false. So if it tells you it will rain, then you classify this as a scientific statement because it has the ability to be false. That the guy tells you that, oh, tomorrow maybe it will rain or it will not rain. But that one you know already, even if tomorrow doesn't come, it is already true that it will rain or it will not rain. So your textbook gives some other examples. If you go to UC, you should just ask yourself, is there anything that will happen in actual life that will make this false? Sometimes the way the person is speaking, no observation will negate it. It means that statement is pretending to be scientific, but it is not falsifiable. And this is what your friend read on the screen. If we have such statement, which cannot be false because of their make, how the person spoke, we call them what? Pseudo-scientific statement. They are pretending to be scientific, but they are not scientific. Why? But they are not testable. What does that mean? They are not falsifiable. Look, our prophetic statement on the 31st night, some of them that say, next year, 3rd January, Ghana will have a female president. It's a scientific statement. Oh, yes. When I said it 31st night, the 3rd January, there will be a black moon or Ghana's whatever will win this. It's testable. Some people want to prophesy that somebody will win in America. And there was trouble. You see, because it's a testable statement, falsifiable, able to be false. So it's scientific. The one that cannot be false at all is what we have described as pseudo-scientific, and that really does a complete mess of our Unit 7. We have killed it like cat meat. We are done. Okay, so let's see. The first slide gone. This is the outline. We tried to help ourselves. I already told you that we don't describe inductive argument as valid. They are already invalid. Validity describes only deductive argument, remember, okay? But we could have a strong inductive argument or a weak inductive argument. You see that? And if it is a strong inductive argument and its premises are true, then we'll call it cogent. These are all in the cogency means it's already a strong induction and the premises are also actually true. Then we say it's cogent. Okay. Just like we saw with deduction, if all the premises are true, in addition to already being valid, then we say it is what? A sound argument. When we did deduction. In induction, what you would have called sound for deduction, you would call cogent for induction. Let me just put it there. Then we saw confirmation is not proof. The various types of inductive arguments are there. We saw some examples. See, then enumerative induction that ends with a universal generalization, we said it's more difficult to confirm than the one that ends with a statistical hypothesis, which is easier to confirm. Then we moved on to put some flesh to reference class, finite, directly testable, verifiable, as compared to the confirmable ones and all the package. We revised particular statements. Then we looked at generalizations. We showed why it's wiser to use a verifiable statement as evidence. It doesn't mean you couldn't use generalization. Sometimes people use statistical hypothesis as their premise, and they conclude with a universal hypothesis. You can imagine how weak such a reasoning would be if I say most women are cheats, therefore all women are cheats. Well, the most women are cheats that you are saying in Lancashire, we can't even directly test it. How does it come and now support your conclusion that therefore all women are cheats? Okay, so you can do that, except that it will not be a strong argument if you are building your conclusion on the basis of another generalization. Then we practiced some particular examples to help our understanding, to take us to degrees of confirmability. On your screen, where we saw statistical versus law-like hypothesis and which one is of more value to us. We built it on to even connect to empirical content, predictive power. We showed scientific value, testability, and falsifiability as necessary to a statement being scientific. That's why if one doesn't have it, we say the person is being pseudo-scientific. And then we concluded. So a valuable empirical information must be falsified. We said all that. We did the example. I don't know if we should work through this one, maybe one or two of them. From the 4 examples up there, heavy smokers are prone to cancer. That's A. B says most heavy smokers are prone to cancer. C says that heavy smoker is prone to cancer. D says either that heavy smoker is prone to cancer or he's not. Let me ask, let me start with question 6. So from the 4 given there, which would you call verifiable? I want a chorus answer. Would it be A, B, C, or D? Which of them is C? Very good.
C.
My question is, listen, I said which is verifiable? Verifiable.
Madam C.
C. Madam is C.
Madam B.
Which is verifiable?
C,
Come in.
Madam.
Madam C.
It's okay.
Because
C.
of the reference.
It is C because of the reference class. Well done. So keep quiet. So verifiable means it has a finite reference class. Please keep it muted. Don't mute again. Okay. Listen. Verifiable means most of you got it correct, but I had 1 or 2 wrong answers. So let me help you out. Which would you call verifiable? I didn't start with question 1. I started with question 6. Which would you call verifiable? And so for the verifiable one, we'll pick C. It's C that has a finite reference class. Look at it. That heavy smoker. You see, A says heavy smokers. That is confirmable. Because the reference class is infinite. It is in fact a universal generalization, the A. But the C says that heavy smoker. So that is the one you can verify because of the finite reference class, which makes it a particular statement. Take this to tutorial and ask for help if you are struggling with it. Which of them has the most empirical content? The most, I'm referring to question 2 now.
Madam is A.
Very good. It's A for apple. Very good. It cannot be B if there is A there. See that? My sister who said B. It can't be B if you have an A there. Look at the A. A says heavy smokers are prone. Heavy smokers. That's a universal generalization. So if that one is there, you cannot overlook it and go and choose B. B says most. B says most heavy smokers. Most is a statistical generalization. So if I ask you which of them has the most empirical content, it cannot be B when A is there. But if we didn't have the A there and we had only B, C, and D, then you would have chosen B. Okay, that is how you do it. Okay, look at 7, which is absolutely true regardless.
D.
Which of the options there?
Let me see.
D.
D.
You understand
D
the
for dog.
question? D. Very good. D for dog. Well done. It's D for dog. Okay, so question 7. It cannot be false. Well done. I hope you can see that. If I say it's absolutely true, it's a tautology. It's true. No matter what happens, that statement is true. Yes. So that's pseudo-scientific as well. That is empty of empirical content. So you look at all the questions that are asking that, and you will see that it is referring to D. I'll add a last one, and then I can do it. Question 10 says, which will you use as evidence or data observation statement? Will you use A, B, C, or D?
C.
Madam is A.
Is C.
Data, evidence.
C.
Madam
C. Madam is C.
Is it how you go?
Madam is D.
Listen, Okay, so let me mute and ask my question. Don't worry, relax. I'm ending. Listen, I said, which of them, the 4 of them on the screen, will you use as evidence or data observation statement? Oh, let me finish. A says heavy smokers are prone. So A is a universal generalization, or better still, law-like generalization. B is a statistical generalization. C is a verifiable statement. D is a pseudo-scientific statement. That is what you see on the screen there. So I'm asking you, which would you use as evidence?
Madam C.
Which one would
Madam
you use?
C.
A, B, C, or D?
Madam C.
Madam C.
Madam
It's
C.
B. Madam
It's
C.
C.
It's B.
C.
The answer is C. So I think that we have just a few of you, or from what I hear, quite a number who are speaking. I don't know the
C.
rest of the class. You should revise that. Okay, practice with that to help you know. Verifiable, confirmable, the 2 types of confirmable statements. Okay, because the last answer wasn't too good. If you use a generalization as evidence, you have a very weak inductive argument. It is better to use a verifiable statement. Why? Because that one can be directly tested. I said all that. Okay, so a statement that is verifiable should be used as your premise, as your evidence, so that if it is in court, I said all that, then we can all look at your evidence to see how it leads to your conclusion that you are drawing. So we can all directly test it. Okay, thank you very much. Send me all queries if you have them. Okay, I see 4 hands up. Are there questions? Please, Zuta, if you have a question, your hand is still up, or it was to read for me. Then I will drop your hand for you now. Okay, thank you very much. Let me take I see Odro Kofi's hand. Was it also to read? Odro, is there a question, please? Okay, I think it was to read for us. Les, is there a question? Go ahead, quickly.
Madam, please, I'm very, very happy because I'm a Barcelona fan.
Okay, I hear you. Thank you very much. Christine, some fun doesn't hurt, eh? So once in a while we have a little fun. It helps our learning. Okay, let me take, is Christine asking a question? I see 2 hands up. Christine.
Madam,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, it's fine. Harry Smith, your hand is up. Quickly, I don't want to overlook you. Is there a question? Okay, it just dropped. Nana, is there a question? Is it Kusadat? Is there a question? Okay, I think we've done a good job. So
Yes, madam.
Nana, is there a question?
Yes, please.
Go ahead quickly.
I wanted to ask, if you have a statement such as the woman is pregnant and she's not pregnant, it's always false. So will you say it's pseudo-scientific?
It's not always false. If you say a woman is pregnant and she's not pregnant, that's always false. Yes, it's a contradiction. Please let me end the recording. There's a background noise that will not help you. I'm coming. Just a minute.